Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Wow, that was pretty good.
You guys have to say,
good.
Let's get to announcements or something.
Yeah, I was thinking, no, we'll start off with a 100-point show, something like that. Let's hop right into the 100-point show.
Okay, let's do the 100-point show. What's your 100-point question?
Who was the inaugural 24/7 champion?
Of what?
The WWE 24/7 champion.
Hulk Hogan.
Wow, no. That is like 30 or 40 years.
Well, really?
Like between like the height of like Hulk Hogan.
Wait, when was the inaugural?
This year.
This year. Oh. Well, you should have led with that.
Why would I have led with that?
Because
if you knew what the 24/7 title was.
Say Kofi Kingston.
It's not Kofi Kingston.
Oh, it should be.
The answer is Titus O'Neil.
Who the fuck is Titus O'Neil?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, so you're having a problem with it. That's too bad.
Okay.
We're not having technical difficulties or anything, but Lawrence has a problem with his own question.
Do I?
Yeah, you don't like that answer.
No, I mean Titus O'Neil's fine. I just wish they did more with him. They kind of. He's been a wrestler for a while now. But yeah, they just don't really do anything with him. They moved him up to the main roster, and then he barely gets on TV except for these comedy skits and 24/7.
Wow, comedy skits, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's supposed to be a ridiculous title. It's supposed to just be fun.
Okay. Ragman is a DC superhero who lives in Gotham City. Okay. And Ragman has two different origin stories. One of his origin stories is that he has a magical rag outfit that each rag that's part of it can house one soul. And he goes around killing people and stealing their souls for justice. And
for justice.
Yeah, for justice. What is his other origin story?
The Joker made him.
No.
Damn.
It's
his other origin
he's
story
a pile of bones.
Is that an acrobat, a boxer, and a really smart guy who were friends of his father's and him were all caught in like a puddle when an electric line snapped, and they all got electrocuted, and all of their abilities of boxing, being an acrobat, and being really smart went into him. And he just happened to have a suit that was made of rags because he couldn't afford anything else.
Okay. I liked mine better.
Yeah, your story sucked.
Well, you should really read Ragman. It's like 8 issues.
That sounds like so much effort, though.
Sounds like I'd have to look at something bad.
It's good stuff. One of the issues was actually censored because of the heavy drug use.
Nice. Never mind. Now I want to read it.
Back in the day. But anyways,
let's get some heavy drug use in.
Let's get on to the announcements.
Yes, announcements. So more or less the same from last week, honestly. We're going to be starting the second weekly show where we cover Apocrypha. Mm-hmm. We have the Esoteric Nazi video coming up. We have the Lilith video coming up. We are still working through a book review for the Deuteronomistic history.
Yep, we've outlined almost all of it.
Almost, yeah. Let's see what else. Point Pyramid. This is just so... I don't know what it is with these guys, but it's very hard to like plan a date with them. Wow. So, I know. So
that sucks.
I am really, really trying.
Anything from Chris
to make that happen?
Chris?
He's around. He was having this great like discussion about the date of the book of Daniel in like one of the Facebook groups, and it was pretty fantastic watching like all the fundamentalists try to argue for like a Babylonian date, and he's like, no, that's strictly wrong. So that was pretty amusing.
Speaking of Chris Hansen,
Yeah,
actual Chris Hansen
follow Blair White.
followed Blair White.
Yep, follow Blair White because she would the right word be exposed Onision allegedly.
I think Onision's exposed
Himself.
himself
Yeah,
a little
really?
too
He has,
much.
Yeah.
Duh.
Oh boy. That's,
Ooh, boy.
Crazy stories there. But remember, it's all allegedly.
Allegedly. We're not saying
Anything
that
for
anyone did anything.
Nope, that would be wrong.
But allegedly, Onision's done a lot of things
Yeah.
to a lot of people.
That's not
Anyways,
great.
so we also have a new shirt coming out soon. We just gotta make it.
Yep.
But we have the idea. We might have some more ideas. We need more shirts, basically.
And what's our 666 donation drive up to?
That is currently at about 360.
360.
Yes,
that's
$1 for
$300.
every angle in a circle.
That's
Wow.
incredible.
You
Every
know,
degree in a circle.
Hey,
whenever-
angle in a circle,
Angle in a
everybody.
circle.
Quote from Lawrence.
Well,
You heard
if you'd like to donate towards our current 666 donation drive,
mathematic education, because
The
he
alchemy
needs
drive.
it.
the alchemy drive. The
Uh-huh.
previous drive, the demon summoning drive, was finished. The video is currently at, what, like 600 views?
Something like that.
Well,
Aw.
share it with your friends.
I was hoping it'd do more because
Yeah.
we put a
Seriously.
lot of effort into that.
And you guys helped be responsible for it.
Yes, you did.
So share it with your friends and
And then one last
Stuff.
thing, obviously, before we hop into some readings, Sherm Journal. Go check out shermjournal.org. They're fantastic.
Just dropped on
And yeah, Chris just dropped his mic
Chris just dropped his mic.
real hard.
I wanted to get the Sherm Journal super fast, but I couldn't because there was a mic that was attached to me,
Yes.
and then
yes,
it fell
there
over.
was.
Here,
Wow.
I'll get
You
that.
tried though,
No, I just want to get this image. I mean, here we go.
but you tried.
I did
Well,
try.
You know, for the time being, I think we should advance into the reading. So,
Yes, we should.
I have the King James Version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard Version of the Bible.
We also have the Hebrew Bible, a translation with commentary, the Robert Alter version.
Yes, and it's pretty damn good. We also have the Old Testament Survey from the New Interpreter's Bible.
We also have the Holy Scriptures according to the Jewish Publication Society of America.
Oh, you said it. You said the full thing this time.
No, I didn't.
No, that's
Much longer than you usually say.
with the
Oh, somebody's mic is off. Ruben, yours is flashing on and off.
with the help of.
Mine's full battery.
Here,
I
let
don't
me
know
see.
what you're talking about.
Well, it was flickering green and it didn't get audio.
Let's read this full thing. All right, with the aid of previous versions and with constant consultation of Jewish authorities.
Yeah.
And we have the new King James Version. We also have a commentary from Anthony Tomasino on the Book of Esther.
And we have the Oxford Companion to the Bible.
Yes, so we have stuff here. So we ended off last week with Esther saying that she would help the Jews. So now, like I have said before, and like we did last week,
There are additions.
yes, and the additions, if you are not familiar, are found in the Septuagint. That is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible. So these directly after chapter 4, there are two more additions. Additions C and D,
C and D.
because that's how the alphabet
You
works.
can see D's.
So
And you know, CDs.
yes,
Yeah.
those are very popular right here.
No, they're not.
They used to be.
Yeah, they used to be. When's the last time you bought a CD?
See, shit.
Does a CD for a program count?
No.
Do you mean like a music?
Yeah, like a music CD.
Oh,
I've only
boy.
ever bought
High
like two
school?
of those.
Yeah, I think
High
it's
school.
been that long.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, anyways, after chapter 4, there are two long prayers by Mordecai and Esther when they hear of Haman's plot to destroy the Jews. And then after that edition, just before chapter 5, so that's right, we have to cover 2 editions before we actually hop into chapter 5.
Hooray!
I know, and that's an expansion of the story of Esther before the king.
And can I take a wild guess and say that nothing here has a behold?
I don't know. Let's find out.
I do know that the book of Esther contains no references to God.
It does not.
So it's
Well, the Greek version does. The Septuagint does.
Because of the additions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It effectively makes a secular, quote unquote, secular text religious.
Okay, well, why don't we hop right into it?
Yes, let's hop right into it. And I am just pulling this up for Ruben here.
Now, it's from the Septuagint, and who's this translation by?
I have to go all the way back up. I don't actually know who the translation is by, but this is...
Well, what's it from? What's the publication?
Doesn't say on here.
Ugh.
I know, it's a bummer.
Well, it sucks when we can't cite our sources.
Yeah,
but-
I pulled this up. It was from JSTOR. So it's
it's on JSTOR. Just look up
Esther to the Reader.
Esther to the Reader
Yeah,
on
that's
JSTOR.
what it's called. So here is edition C. I'm pulling it up for you here. Okay. That is doing some weird zooming. Here we go.
Hooray.
All right, it starts here and then goes
Straight down.
straight down?
Yep.
Okay. Then he petitioned the Lord, remembering all of the works of the Lord. This is Mordecai, right? Yeah. Because he just had his talk with Esther.
Yeah, and the last verse in chapter 4 ended, Mordecai then went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him.
Yes. And he said, Lord, Lord, King of all powers, for the universe is subject to your authority, and there is no one who can oppose you when it is your will to save Israel. Because you have made heaven and earth and every wonderful thing in what is under heaven. You are Lord of all, and there is no one who can withstand you, the Lord. You know all things. You know, O Lord, that it was not insolence, nor pride, nor any love of glory that I did this, namely, to refuse to do obeisance to this prideful Haman.
You know, here's actually something very interesting that I pulled up.
Yeah.
So, when talking about God knowing all things, let's compare that to John 21:15.
I also think it's such a drastic contrast between the Septuagint's inserts and the edition we'll be reading. Really, you're correct. It is totally inserting as much religion as it can.
Yeah, there's
nuts.
a whole bunch. Like, because
Compared to how secular it is, really, right?
because previously it was like kind of maybe implied that God had done all these things, but now they're directly telling you
Right.
that God is involved here.
Well, it hasn't even really been implied. I mean, it's
No,
kind
not
of been
far.
implied that he's not that smart. Like,
Yeah.
he has to argue with his creations.
Sure.
Consistently.
I'm still not sure why
But
this section
he's so
isn't
smart.
called
He knows all.
Mordecai.
He knows all things.
He lost an argument to Abraham.
Yeah, he kind of did.
In the first book.
So, anyways, so when Jesus is appearing after his resurrection in John, what is it? From 15 to 17. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said to them, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, Feed my lambs. He said to him a second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said to him, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, Tend my sheep. He said to him the third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, Do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. Jesus said to him, Feed my sheep. And then it goes on.
Feed my sheep.
I know. But anyways, the phrase of you knowing all things appears nowhere else in the Old Testament.
Wow, it sounds like it was a Greek addition.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that neat?
Yep. Oh, jeez. Know all things.
So that's part of the reason that it's an argument for the author of John using the Septuagint.
Right, and it's not only that he knows all things that happen, he knows, like, the content of people's character and their innermost thoughts.
Yeah.
Like,
And then sometimes, on occasion, he controls those things.
oh, yeah.
And those hearts are hardened.
For I would have been willing to kiss the soles of his feet for Israel's safety, but I did this so that I might not set human glory above divine glory. And I will not do obeisance to anyone but you, my Lord. And I will not do these things in pride. And now, O Lord God, King, God of Abraham, spare your people. For they are looking to ruin us, and they desired to destroy the inheritance that has been yours from the beginning. Do not neglect your portion, which you redeemed for yourself out of the land of Egypt. Hear my petition, and have mercy upon your allotment. Turn our mournings into feasting, that we may live and sing hymns to your name, O Lord. Do not silence the mouth of those who praise you. And all Israel cried out from their strength.
And everybody clapped.
Because their death was before their eyes. Then Esther the queen fled to the Lord, seized with the agony of death. Taking off the garments of her glory, she put on the garments of distress and mourning. And instead of costly perfume, she covered her head with ashes and dung.
Great.
And she utterly
Shithead.
humbled her body. Every part that she loved to adorn, she covered with her tangled hair. Then she petitioned the Lord, God of Israel, and said, O my Lord, you alone are our king. Help me, I who am alone and have no helper except you.
Okay.
Mordecai is no one now. Right?
Yeah, right.
Because my danger is in my hand. I have heard from my birth in the tribe of the family that you, O Lord, took Israel out of all nations and our fathers from among their forebears to be an everlasting inheritance, and you did for them all that you said. And now we have sinned before you, and you have delivered us into the hands of our enemies because we honored their gods. You are righteous, O Lord. And now they were not satisfied that we are in bitter slavery, but they have put their hands into the hands of their idols to annul the stipulation of your mouth and to destroy your inheritance and to stop the mouths of those who praise you and to extinguish the glory of your house and your altar, to open the mouth of the nations for the mighty deeds of vain things, and that a mortal king be admired forever. O Lord, do not surrender your scepter to those who don't exist.
Okay.
What?
So don't
Pray to those fake gods?
no, because he's speaking to God, right?
Right.
So don't let those non-existent deities show you what they're made of or something. Like, you better show them what you're made of, which is something other than them, which are not made of anything.
Yeah.
This is the dumbest thing yet.
And do not let them laugh at our downfall.
Why
How
not?
could they laugh if they don't exist?
They can't.
Listen to my non-existent laughter.
But turn their plan against them and make a public example of him who began this against us. Remember, O Lord, make yourself known in a time of our affliction and embolden me, O King of the gods and master of all domination. I guess nobody ever prayed during the Holocaust, right?
Yeah, never.
Never. Didn't happen once. I bet. That was the issue.
That was the big problem. They should have done that more. Those hopes and prayers, they get you far.
Put eloquent speech in my mouth before the lion, and turn his heart to hate the one who fights against us, so that there may be an end of him and those who agree with him. But save us by your hand and help me, who am alone and have no one except you, O Lord. You have knowledge of everything, again.
Yep.
And you know that I hate the glory of the lawless, and I abhor the bed of the uncircumcised and of any foreigner.
Okay, well, we're back on that then.
Up those things. Good to know they're sticking to the same concepts, isn't it?
You know, it's like they didn't even care about welcoming their strangers and
Oh, no.
knowing that they were like slaves in Egypt and
Wasn't
all
the
that
style
stuff
at the
that
time.
God says directly, like,
Yeah.
I am God who led you out of Egypt to be your God,
Yeah.
right?
All that stuff, just throw it away when it's necessary.
Because you hate
And
the
then take-
uncircumcised foreigners.
Yeah. Can't stand them being around.
Ugh. You know my predicament, that I abhor the sign of my proud position that is on my head on days when I appear in public. I abhor it like a menstrual cloth.
Yeah, so this is like one of these things that makes it, or that has some people attributing Esther to being resistance literature. Like, I'm in the fray, but I hate it. I tells you, I hate it. I'm doing my job out of spite, but one day I'm gonna take it down from the inside.
Her job of being a wealthy queen and owning like half of a city.
I thought that was Mordecai talking.
Oh no, this is it Mordecai now?
It's been, I thought.
I thought it.
No. It was Mordecai at first, when he's like, "Don't silence the mouth of those who praise you. You redeemed for yourself out of the land of Egypt. Hear my perdition." So like the first 10 verses are Mordecai, and then in verse 12 it starts off with saying, "Then Esther the queen fled to the Lord."
Oh, okay.
Right. So this is Esther.
The second prayer. Okay.
Right. The position on my head on days when I appear in public, I abhor it like a menstrual cloth, and I do not wear it on the days when I am in private. And your slave has not eaten at Haman's table, and I have not honored the king's banquet, nor drunk the wine of libations. Your slave has not rejoiced since the day of my change until now, except in you, O Lord, God of Abram. O God, who has power over all things, hear the voice of those who despair, and save us from the hand of evildoers, and save me from my fear. And that's the end of C.
That's the end of C?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys are enjoying the stream, make sure to drop a like.
Yes.
It really does help us out.
So this is chapter 4.2, and now we're moving on to 4.3.
Yep, 4.3. 4.3 is not very long.
Nah, it's D.
Yeah. If you guys are wondering, and the original language of this was Hebrew. Of
Here,
this
I'll
edition.
make it
Huh.
4D.
Yeah.
So
Now we can have Esther in 4D.
Only B and E were originally composed in Greek.
I see.
Okay. The rest of it was composed in Hebrew.
all right.
Okay. So, and it happened on the third day, as she ceased praying, she took off the garments of service and put on her glory. Then, when she had become majestic, after calling upon the all-seeing God and Savior, she took along 2 of her attendants. On one she leaned gently for support, while the other followed, holding her train. I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. Holding her train.
I don't know.
I hope it's not
Holding
sexual.
her train. I don't know. She was radiant with the full flush of her beauty.
Is that like the thing that trails behind brides?
I doubt it. I don't know, though. She was radiant with the full flush of her beauty, and her face looked happy, as if she were cheerful. But her heart was in anguish from fear. When she had gone through all the doors, she spent a year preparing herself for a beauty pageant
Yes.
to be with this king.
It wasn't a beauty pageant.
It was kind of a beauty. Well, in a way, it was. It was.
A performance test. Oh man, nobody wants
It was
to
a
see
lot of
it.
stuff, probably.
There's a lot of messed
Yeah.
up stuff.
Partly beauty pageant, partly.
And she abhors the bed of uncircumcised
Absolutely hates
foreigners.
it. She just really hates what she is doing for whatever reason. When she had gone through all the doors, she stood before the king. He was seated on the throne of his kingdom, clothed in the full array of his splendor, all covered with gold and precious stones, and he was most terrifying. And when he raised his face inflamed with glory, he gazed. I'm dumb. He gazed at her in the full flush of anger. The queen staggered. Her color turned pale from faintness, and she collapsed on the head of the attendant who went before her. Then God changed the spirit of the king to gentleness, and alarmed, he jumped from his throne and took her in his arms until she was quieted. He kept comforting her with soothing words and said to her, "What is it, Esther? I am your brother. Take heart. You shall not die, for our ordinance is only for the common person. Come here." Wasn't this the king?
Yeah.
So now it's a brother? Okay.
What?
That's very strange.
That is really weird. But I guess let's continue. Then he lifted the golden rod and placed it on her neck. He welcomed her and said, "Speak to me." She said to him, "I saw you, Lord, like a divine angel, and my heart was shaken from fear of your glory." What a kiss-ass. "For you are marvelous, Lord, and your face is full of grace." And while she was speaking, she fell from faintness again. Then the king and all his servants were troubled, and he reassured her. That was silly. Okay, so I'm going to check one thing here. This says brother, right?
Yeah.
That's the end of that.
That is the end of edition D.
If you're enjoying the
rather-
stream so far, like, share, subscribe, like.
Yeah, all that good stuff. So I'm checking, because right next to the Septuagint version, I have on here the Alpha text. So it's another Greek version, but it greatly summarizes the rest of the narrative, but keeps the additions like in full. It's really weird. So I'm checking here. It also says, "I am your brother," so I don't know what's up with that. Rachel says her translation has husband instead of brother, so I'm not sure what to do about that.
What is the Hebrew word for husband and what is the Hebrew word for brother? Maybe they're very similar.
Maybe. I don't know. But anyways.
That's not a good thing.
No.
We can hop right into chapter 5 then, and we have no additions for the rest of the day.
Hooray!
All right.
Yeah.
Then I'll start us off with chapter 5. In the King James Version of the Bible, the one true version, handed down by God himself on a silver platter
To Moses.
to Moses.
And they were like, "We can't read this." He's like, "You'll get there."
Yeah, on Mount Olympus.
This isn't for you. It's for King James.
Yep. Oh, jeez. Now, it came to pass on the third day.
Tell him I sent you. He'll know what it's about.
Oh my God. Sorry.
Now, it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house, over and against the king's house. And the king sat upon his throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther, the queen, standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight, and the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand.
Hold on. And remember, with the addition, it would be really weird.
Yes.
Because he just like placed it on her head, or on her neck, or whatever.
Yes.
Maybe it was a different scepter.
So Esther drew near, and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thy request? It shall be given thee to the half of the kingdom. And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. And the king said, Cause Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. So he was like straight up, I'll give you whatever you want. What do you want? And she's like, come to my house for dinner.
Jeez.
Okay. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to half the kingdom it shall be performed. Then answered Esther, and said, My petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king hath said. Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Zeresh his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. Haman said moreover, Yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared but myself. And tomorrow I am invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. Then Zeresh his wife and all of his friends unto him said, Let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon.
So couple things here. It says, let a gallows 50 cubits high be made, right? Mm-hmm. So this is what most scholars translate this as. I'm going to read it out here. Mm-hmm. What verse was that?
That was
14.
14. I'm in the middle of it.
Okay. Let them set up a stake 50 cubits high. So, like...
something to hang him off of.
Yeah, but it's not like, gallows as we think of them. It's, they're going to impale him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On a 50 cubit high rod.
But he's not going to be hanged.
He's not going to be hanged.
Okay. Then go thou merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made.
Yeah. So.
And that's the end of chapter 5.
Wow. So here's something fun about this. This is part of the comedy aspect. I guess we could call it that. So.
It's dark.
Notice that Haman is making this. So we'll see how it goes for his grand plan, because some guy didn't bow for him. Mm. Like, that's just nuts.
And hey, Lawrence, do you hear that strange sound coming from off in the distance?
I think that might be our studio audience.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
This always seems to happen.
We have divine intervention almost all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting here trying to disprove everything,
And there's Jesus.
and there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez, Jesus, don't you know that everything came from nothing?
Don't you
And
know?
that humans just appeared magically
Yeah, come on.
from the Big Bang?
Yeah, come on.
And Darwinism because of the scientism.
Yep, all of the things you just said.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's continue to chapter 6. On that night, the king could not sleep, and he gave orders to bring the book of memorable deeds, the Chronicles, and they were read before the king. What is the book of memorable deeds? Is that just a storybook?
It's the Chronicles.
I really hope it is someone reading bedtime stories to the king.
This says the book of the Annals, the book of Acts.
Okay.
And here it says could not sleep. The literal sense of the Hebrew is his sleep wandered. It became the standard idiom for insomnia in later Hebrew.
Okay, that makes sense. And it was found written how Mordecai had told about Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs who guarded the threshold, and who had sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus, Xerxes. And the king said, "What honor or distinction has been bestowed on Mordecai for this?"
Why do they keep misnaming Xerxes?
It's just a translation thing, because the way the Hebrew is written out,
Yes.
it's written out like this, but it would be identified as Xerxes.
Okay. Kind of like double yud is Adonai for some reason.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. So the king is wondering why Mordecai hasn't been, elevated to some high position.
Yeah.
So the king's young men who attended him said, "Nothing has been done for him." And the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now, Haman, I'm wondering why he's asking who is in the court. Just so somebody could go help Mordecai out?
Mm-hmm.
Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the king's palace to speak to the king about having Mordecai hanged on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's...
And here it says to impale Mordecai.
Sure, yep. And the king's young men told him, "Haman is there, standing in the court." And the king said, "Let him come in." So Haman came in, and the king said to him, "What should be done to the man whom the king delights to honor?" Now this is going to be a little amusing, but if he wants someone to go honor Mordecai somehow, he could have asked the two guys with him.
Yeah.
Or how many young men was it? It just said the king's young men who attended him. He could have just asked them, but no. It had to be Haman, because that's...
On the day that he came in to ask him to be killed.
Yes. See, comedy. Haha.
Ha.
And
Dramedy.
Haman said to himself, "Whom would the king delight to honor more than me?" And Haman said to the king, "For the man whom the king delights to honor, let royal robes be brought, which the king has worn, and the horse that the king has ridden, and on whose head a royal crown is set. And let the robes and the horse be handed over to one of the king's most noble officials. Let them dress the man." So he's just listing off all the stuff that he wants.
So I'm guessing that the additions that we read previously are kind of to justify what's happening now, because it really seems like without
Poetic
the
justice, kinda, yeah.
without the additions and without them explicitly asking for divine intervention,
you can
this comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, the thing is, you can pick up on what's happening here, but with the additions, it was pretty explicit that that's what's going on. It's kind of how they tell you to write in English classes. You have to pretend everyone is an idiot and can't draw links by themselves.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's just listing off all the things that he wants. Let them dress the man whom the king delights to honor, and let them lead him on the horse through the square of the city, proclaiming before him, "Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor." Then the king said to Haman, "Hurry! Take the robes and the horse, as you have said." And he's probably getting all giddy there. Haman's like, "Yes, I will take him." And do so to Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Leave out nothing that you have mentioned.
Oh, God.
So Haman took the robes and the horse, and he dressed Mordecai, and led him through the square of the city, proclaiming before him, "Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor."
Yes. And he doesn't impale this guy or hang him or whatever. Instead, he carts him through the streets
Yep.
like royalty.
Yep.
Wonderful.
It was all his idea,
That's
too.
a great idea, because he thought it was him.
Yep.
Oh, please.
Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman hurried to his house, mourning and with his head covered. And Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that had happened to him. Then his wise men and his wife Zeresh said to him, "If Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of the Jewish people, you will not overcome him, but will surely fall before him." You really fucking think anyone would say this?
I mean, it's the Bible. So, yeah, it's in the Bible, sure. Outside of that? No.
No.
So here it says, this response is scarcely in keeping with their counsel on the previous day to impale Mordecai, but it reflects the nationalist comic fantasy that is the vehicle of the story.
Yep.
Haman has already identified Mordecai to them as the Jew. Now they appear not entirely certain whether he's of Jewish stock, but if he is, they're convinced he's destined to defeat Haman because they recognize some special indomitable power in the seed of the Jews.
Yep.
That recognition was not in evidence when they advised Haman to have Mordecai executed.
Not at all.
Like,
It's the opposite of what
they
you're
just
doing.
forgot about it until it was useful
Whoops.
to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's not great storytelling. All right, and I know it is going to be kind of a... Oh, right, there's actually one more verse that I have here.
Yes.
While they were yet talking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurried to bring Haman to the feast that Esther had prepared.
Hooray.
You know, it's a really fast-paced chapter.
Yeah, it really is. All of these chapters are kind of fast-paced. We're going to do a little bit more next week. I'm going to pull up some scholarship on chapters 9 through 10. Also, we're going to be covering 8 next week, too, to finish it off. But I'm going to pull up some scholarship. And actually, next week is the week that Jim Majors is going to be here.
Yes,
in studio.
I
Yeah.
won't be here. Jim will be here.
Yep.
Is he going to be reading
Yes.
the King James version
Yes,
of
he
the
is.
Bible?
It's his favorite. Right, Jim? Do you hear us, Jim? He's probably not in the chat. But if
Future
you're
Jim.
watching this, Jim, future Jim, you love the King James Bible.
Yeah, you do now.
It is the best. Okay, let's get into chapter 7.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying the stream, Amazon wish list, donation drive, all that.
Yes,
We're running
all that stuff. Amazon
Yep.
wish list especially, that's nice.
Yeah, that if you buy us books, we
Also-
will make videos.
Yes, and also the 666 donation drive,
666.
which is at around $360.
Yep.
Hooray.
So, the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom.
Wow.
Then Esther the queen answered and said, If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held not my tongue. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage.
So, it's really weird how Esther is perceived throughout the course of this book.
Yeah.
Because initially, she's, just kind of like a nobody who's going to go parade herself in front of the king.
But she's hot.
Yeah, she's hot, though. That's really the exception for every rule, isn't it? But she's hot. So then in the editions, like, she fell before the king. She's like, oh, you're just too glorious, king. And now of course, if we don't include the editions, she's still seen as kind of like, not exactly lesser, but she's kind of the more timid one. But now, all of a sudden, it has shifted where everything is being done for Esther.
Yeah.
Almost inexplicably.
Well, she buttered him up.
Yeah, she did.
Like, let's party day after day
I
after
guess,
day.
yeah.
Right? Okay. Then the king, Ahasuerus, answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he, and where is he, that durst presume in his heart to do so? And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman.
So, what's interesting? She was talking in pretty vague terms. Like, from what I could presume, from how she was speaking, that she was talking about the people. Because it said, and my people for my request.
Yes.
So, when he asked, like, who is it? Like, who is doing this persecuting? It would be, that would be a strange, like, I would expect an answer of, like, another nation or another group of people.
Yeah.
But no, it's Haman.
Not a dude, just a dude.
Yeah.
It's the bad guy of the story.
Dun, dun, dun.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and queen, and the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen.
Begging, pleading with her.
Yeah. Please don't kill me. For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen on the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house? As the word...
Hold on. I just want to read this translation. Might be a little bit easier to understand. So he was begging for his life from Queen Esther, for he saw that harm was determined against him by the king. And the king returned from the palace garden to the place where they were drinking wine, as Haman was falling on the couch where Esther was. And the king said, will he even assault the queen in my presence in my own house? So now he thinks...
he's trying to rape her.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
He's not having a good day.
No.
As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face.
This is interesting. Okay. So the thing about Haman fallen on the couch where Esther was, the guests at the wine banquet would have been reclining on couches. Haman has prostrated himself on Esther's couch in pleading for his life. But the verb fall makes this a literal realization of Zeresh's dire prophecy, you shall surely fall before him. In this case, not before Mordecai, but before his adoptive daughter.
And you know what? If Zeresh was correct about that, that means she was a prophet of God, specifically the Jewish God.
Yep. So we should really have a day where we worship Zeresh.
No, this should be the book of Zeresh, not the book of Esther.
That's also a good idea.
This is the actual prophet we're talking about here.
Oh my gosh.
Come on. And Harbonah, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, Behold!
Behold?
Also,
Wow, I get to put one in.
the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him thereon.
Yeah, I like mine a little bit better. So after, showing these gallows, it says, and the king said, hang him on that. It's like, yep, kill him right there.
Oh my gosh.
So, they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified.
Yep.
And that's the end of chapter 7 and the readings for today.
Yeah, that is.
An exceptionally short episode.
It was short. It was.
Despite the fact that we covered 2 editions
Yeah.
and 3 chapters.
Yes.
essentially 5 chapters.
Well, I think there's less
ostensibly.
commentary to be had since it's so secular here.
Well, there's less commentary to be had, mostly because we covered a good amount of it in the first episode
Boy, did you.
of
Yeah.
this book.
And
But-
because the story is pretty straightforward.
And it's short. The
Like-
chapters are actually very short.
And
as
we got a
well.
behold, guys. Here,
we did get a behold. That's good.
Yeah.
We
There we go.
got a behold.
One
But-
behold, everyone.
Our
Now-
audience does not need to be told when something is ironic.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
need to be told.
You guys are smart.
Yeah,
And girls.
you guys are geniuses, all of you.
All of you.
If I check the comments, I'd hope I agree with
Both
them.
dicks and vaginas, all of them, very intelligent.
Thank you.
That's
But not the assholes.
That's a sentence I said.
Yep.
So I want to pull up one thing here. I know, right? Crazy. I'm just going to extend it a little bit in length. Let's go for a little bit longer. But I'm going to talk about some of the historical issues.
All right.
So I am going to Tomasino's commentary. Let's see, pages 50 to 54.
So
So-
you said that the edition D was in Hebrew.
Yes.
Was it in the Septuagint?
Yes.
Okay.
But it would have been originally composed in Hebrew, because like certain wordplay only works in certain languages. So like if I were to literally translate the phrase "we got your back"
Yeah.
into Russian, it would translate to "I literally have your spine," and in some context there, it would not make any sense. Like,
Or it
why
would
would
be
you
brutal.
have someone's, or it would be brutal. Like, why would you just take somebody's spine? So we would be able to reasonably presume that whatever I had written or said in Russian was initially from English. So that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So let's talk about some stuff that really makes it unlikely that this is a historical account.
One, they misspelled the king's name.
Well, that's now one of the big things that we have to remember about this list. I'm only going to read the stuff that we have covered so far. But one of the big things is that some of these do have they do have fairly good responses.
It's also in the Vulgate.
Okay, it's also in the Vulgate.
Yep.
But
Good.
Thank you, Nameless Phoenix.
Thank you, Nameless.
Let's see.
But they have
So-
a name.
Internal improbabilities that were cited by Moore, apparently. The feast given by the king for the leaders of the empire, lasting 180 days. Vashti's refusal to obey the king's command. The king's ridiculous letter ordering all the men of his empire to be masters of their own houses. The appointment of non-Persians to the position of prime minister within the empire. The letters sent out in all the languages of the empire rather than in Aramaic and Persian, the official languages of the empire. Then there's one more in the next chapter.
And,
the
I mean,
king's-
there's the whole part where Haman said that he was given more power than the princes.
Yeah.
Like, really?
The king is granting permission for an entire ethnic group of the empire to be exterminated and issuing the command nearly a year in advance of the event. And then also, we haven't got to that one yet, so I'll read it. Let's see. Selecting the queen of the world's largest and most well-administered empire based on a beauty pageant. The maiden's year-long preparations for a single night with the king. Haman's offer to deposit 10,000 talents of silver in the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. That's about 375 tons, according to Moore, and the equivalent of about 2/3 of the Persian Empire's annual income.
Yeah.
No, they don't have that just lying around.
And then
you know.
the 75-foot tall gallows that Haman prepared for Mordecai. And then there's
Doesn't that seem
some other stuff, but-
fantastical?
yes, yeah, it does. And remember, there's more of these, or there are. That was just the internal stuff.
Yes.
There's a good bunch of external stuff too, and a good amount of them do have like some fine apologetics that go along with them. You can like fit it into history, but it's just too overwhelming. There's just too much stuff that cannot be accounted for.
Yes. This is a comedy.
Yeah. Genres are hard with this, but it is funny. It is funny.
I would call it a dramedy because it has that kind of, take
Hey.
the guy on a field trip and then kill him at the end.
If you guys want to take on the task of trying to figure out
The genre.
the genre of this book,
Good
go
luck.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Genres suck, I've concluded, because they're so broad.
That and pretty much everything has been tried for this.
Yeah.
No,
So,
I think it's a comedy. Too many things that are just ridiculously ironic and out of place happen.
But the whole
And
thing is, why
like,
didn't
their
why didn't
descriptions of things are also like completely ridiculous.
I am in agreement
like-
with you, but why wouldn't if they're writing comedy, why wouldn't the author write comedy for the people of the time? Because they didn't find it funny. They took it very seriously.
Okay. Ghostbusters, when it was remade, was written for people of our time. But people didn't find it funny. That's
Do you think they're gonna find it funny in the future?
yeah. I think that I think they'll find it funny in an ironic way.
Kind of
Okay.
like, this
Yeah.
is just irony humor, yeah.
Kind of like the Star Wars prequels.
Are better now because
Yeah.
they have current Star Wars that suck. Yeah, you don't know that, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep, I have no idea.
But this is a rom-com. Yeah.
Totally.
Of course.
So that's pretty much all I have today. Next week, after we do some readings, I'm gonna cover some more stuff on the originality of Esther chapters 9 through 10, and then cover some more scholarship with Jim. I think it'll be fun next week. So make sure to tune in next week. But other than that, kind of a short episode today. Only about an hour. Not even.
Yeah, not even an hour. But if you enjoyed our stream today, be sure to like, comment, subscribe.
Patreon.
Patreon. We have a ton of great rewards in there for anyone who's interested. We're not going to list them all off right now because we've done it in
A
like...
million times.
Yeah. Well, no.
Not a million.
But at least like 50.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And also, Teespring. Get some
Yeah.
T-shirts.
Wacky and fun.
Absolutely.
We
Wacky
should
and fun.
make a wacky and like
I know you've
a
said this
T-shirt
before.
where it just like outright says
Wacky and
and fun.
Yes, I
Wow.
agree. That would be
Wacky
and fun. So,
And like a really like Comic Sans.
Please,
no, it would have to be a little worse than Comic Sans.
You clown.
Clown.
Chiller.
Or Joker. I think that's...
Joker.
Yeah, Joker.
Joker. You're right. It's
Yeah.
not clown.
Oh,
So, anyways,
wingdings. Anyways,
No one knows what that is.
Facebook, Twitter, wish list, all links are in the description.
we could produce a translation of the Bible in wingdings.
Great.
It's legal.
I suppose it's legal.
Well, instead, how about...
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank
and
you.
we will
See you
next
next Sunday.